Hello there everybody, this is of course the great and glorious, soon to be famous one day, Nick Dutch, chilling out at the end of a long day. Now, I've covered this subject before, but there's quite a few new viewers and new subscribers to this one particular channel, so I'm going to go over this all over again. It is of course the subject of the history of tarot. I'll make an apology now in the fact that it's been a fair while since I've gone to the primary sources of research, so I may make the occasional minor factual inaccuracy here and there, but I'll try and remember everything that I've learned over the years to the best of my ability and just basically just give it to you. A tarot pack is a pack of playing cards. That's the first thing you got to learn. Okay? All playing cards and playing card games have their origin in China, because what they used to do is they used to take their currency and they used to use that as playing pieces in the game. So if you think about it, reach into your wallet, take out, your pound notes or your whatever it is you've got, and realize that in the old days, this would have been a playing piece in a game, essentially, in the old days in China. The games they played were gambling games. They were playing with money, they were gambling games. And they steadily moved from the Far East to the Middle East and eventually to Europe, okay, with the passage of time because of people talking, conflicts, trade, all the rest of that. And there was a culture which emerged, and that was to have 4 suits plus a 5th suit. Okay? And all the cultures started to develop their own playing cards. And they would depict religious imagery. If you think about it, in the old days, religion was like soap opera. It was there, it was the common popular media. Everybody went to the pagan shrines or the temples, and as a result of that, all the religious stories were the popular media of the day. Okay? So you'd have your 4 suits plus the 5th suit, which would depict something from religion. Like the ancient Greeks had a 5th suit which contained their deities, all the deities of the ancient Greek religion. When the idea of tarot, the idea of playing cards of this style and design finally reached Europe, finally reached France, it hit Christian culture. And of course, Christian culture thought, we want to have something just like this. And so there was created, presumably around Italy, Rome, something based upon the Christian triumph procession, which would have been something like a massive mummers play with various different characters representing various different things. Okay? That's when it starts to get a bit odd, because I think it was Spain and Italy that ended up banning tarot, because it was ideas from religion being used in a game for gambling. Now, it is always the forbidden fruit which tastes the sweetest, right? So if something is banned, superstition and stories are going to start to grow and develop. There was also a parallel cultural trait, and that was to use cards for divination or storytelling of some type. 5.5 centuries ago, and this was proven through archaeology, in Germany, alright, there was a little book which contained the meanings of birds, and there was a pack of cards with hand-painted, hand-drawn pictures of birds on it. And this was used as a divination tool. So, when you go to a New Age shop, and you see, like, just I've shown you before, you get your nice pack which has got a book by an author with various different interpretations, and then you got your pack of cards that goes with it. This is an ancient European media tradition. Okay, it's all commercialized now, and it's all going weird, and you got tarot packs of the cat people, and probably the Smurfs as well, for all I know. You know, but on the other hand, this is still part of our ancient traditions within the European lands. So I could imagine or envisage tarot being developed, alright, at the same time as there is also this other tradition of using cards for storytelling and divination. Some stories talk about messengers trying to use tarot cards to convey a message to, let's say, a duke or a lord or a bishop or whatever it was when he loses his voice. So it may hold up like the Queen of Hearts, the Queen of Cups, saying, you know, a loving, sensitive, feminine lady who wants to have a lot of fun is the one who's trying to do, I don't know, holding up the Two of Swords, saying have conflict with or generate peace with, you know, the King of Coins being some rich person, stuff like that. Okay. But also the divination aspect would have eventually become part of tarot itself. The next major milestone in the history of tarot, the way I understand it, would have been probably the American Civil War. This was important because of the other cultural trait we need to try and bring into the story, which is that of spiritualism. When the Civil War happened, there was massive loss of life, which you can understand. And there was a desire amongst, let's say, the women who'd lost their husband in battle to try and have some kind of communication with spirit. So from that, spiritualism started to grow and develop and flourish, and that became the father, so to speak, of a lot of more modern occult movements. So, you've got spiritualism flourishing on one side of things, okay? You've got the tarot already in existence. People are already starting to use it for divination and fortune telling and trying to apply extra meanings to the cards, which weren't there originally, because originally it was just a pack of playing cards, okay? And this is like the perfect storm for Alphonse Louis Constant, the author of Transcendental Magic, the start of the Celtic Revival, which happened afterwards, okay, and the generation of the modern witchcraft cults in the 1950s. It was, you know, it was the perfect storm. Started around about the time of the American Civil War and the development of tarot playing cards from the Chinese money games. Okay. When we get Alphonse Louis Constant, then things start to go Kabbalistic, because he tried to connect 13th century Jewish mysticism to the tarot. I mean, there were other people who were thinking along the same lines at the same time as well. You know, the four suits, the four main suits, maybe the four letters of the Tetragrammaton, you know, Yod He Vav He, or, you know, four divisions such as the four elements, or four aspects of what was in each sphere of the Tree of Life. Then of course you got 10 pip cards within each suit. Maybe that represents 10 spheres of the whole Tree of Life in Jewish mysticism. This is intriguing because it implants the Tree of Life and essentially Judaism firmly into occult thinking and therefore occult religion, which goes into Christian ideas and eventually neo-pagan ideas, which is essentially in many ways just an offshoot of Christianity. When the Witchcraft Act gets repealed, you then get Gardner and Sanders doing their thing, so that 1 year later the witchcraft cult starts to get popularized. This then locks into the growth of the hippie movement, which is a reaction against the previous more conservative, restrictive society in some ways. But of course there's lots of other things happening at the same time as well, such as new artistic movements, new movements in terms of styles of furniture, art, fashion. And so it was a very cathartic time of change of identity and culture, of which one main feature or one subcultural feature would have been the development of the New Age movement at that time. Okay. From then, and thanks to freedom of speech, which is both good and bad at times, you then get numerous cults and numerous subcultures being developed, all of them with their own ideas. And a lot of them, seeing that tarot was well regarded as being something from occultism, from peasant superstition, from the occult revival of the late 1700s and early 1800s, and of course eventually leading on to the 20th century, tarot then becomes central and heavily planted in occult thinking. But despite the fact that there are tarot packs called things like the Tarot of the Witches, or the Celtic Tarot, or the Merlin Tarot, we mustn't forget that the origin of tarot itself was not pagan. Okay? It stopped being pagan when it entered into France and it got turned into a means of Christian art and explanation. Okay? Tarot itself has been seen by some people to be more or less a Bible, or indeed a expression of the Bible, because of the various characters, you know, the high priestess representing the Holy Spirit, for instance. Okay. So it is complex. It's grown more complex since, I would say, the mid-20th century. But it is curious that we cannot now separate occult thoughts and Judeo-Christian thoughts. Okay? So we can't really separate witchcraft, basically, and Christianity. Because within witchcraft, there is the use of tarot, there is the use of the Tree of Life, there is the invocation of angels and archangels. There's an awful lot of essentially esoteric Judaism within paganism, and it's being carried alongside tarot, and how tarot has developed and become a really important, culturally central thing for spiritual movements. Okay? I mean, there was even a video by a Satanist who's here on YouTube, who talked about doing her, you know, meditations and prayers, and eventually gave her the ability to communicate with the Quillapoth, which is supposed to be the demons associated with some of the spheres of the Tree of Life at certain various different infernal levels, which was, of course, her interpretation and her own personal truth. Okay? But it is curious that someone who would identify with Satanism would then talk about speaking to very Jewish interpretations of demons. Why is this? I would say it is partially to do with tarot itself. It's something which has had, on some levels of society, some of the most profound effects, and has essentially created a culture whereby even in polytheistic or pantheistic religious movements, there is still not just a trace, but a very heavy mark of one singular, all-embracing, but incredibly complex and varied monotheistic faith, which is really rather curious. I suppose I'd like to leave you with a thought. Maybe paganism and the modern day witchcraft movement is not the triumph of the moon, but the triumph of tarot, and possibly of monotheistic thought. And maybe through tarot we could say that all religions are one and have become one. All different denominations of the same singular spiritual truth. Those are my opinions as of today. This has been A History of Tarot with Nick Dutch. God bless.